After last week, Grandpa can take it a little bit more calmer in terms of his approach in this championship race. Welcome back to RPL, Season 10, Tier 2, Round number 9. We're at Qatar this time around, and I am your commentator, Ryan. It is good to have you all join us, whoever is joining us in tonight's event. Round number 9 of 11 during the season at Qatar. It's the second time Tier 2 goes here. It is the 6th time RPL goes here overall. And now we look like we're getting underway. Let's keep you up to date with the championship fight. Grandpa is now 19 points ahead of Hunted after Hunted had a collision last week with Valk. Valkyrie sent him into the wall after contact. She was penalized. And it resulted in Hunted's championship hopes potentially going up in smoke. Groggers won the race and is now 34 points back. He was at one point 50 plus points back from Grandpa. He started the season in a Haas, and once Florian had his shenanigans happen, a P9, a P10, a P11 finish did not meet the expectations for Ferrari, and he changed it. He changed it to him being in the Ferrari car, and ever since, George has not looked back. George is only 34 points back, George being Groggers. Let's see how these drivers can tackle this race. We're heading into qualifying. Let's tell you the constructor standings before we tell you anything else. For the constructor standings, we have... let me just unpause and do that. Can hear audio better? For the constructor standings, we have Ferrari, who have Alex Baer full-time now. Groggers full-time for them, leading by 28 points. They're on form. Red Bull has Hunted and JTK. 28 points back. McLaren now have a little bit of a change here. Alpine not eligible to win the championship anymore. Only 4 teams are eligible to win this constructor's title from this point onwards. Could become 3 after today's race. However, with McLaren, Tadpole, who got a podium last week, his first podium in 11 races, 1 season, ends up switching to McLaren for the last couple races. Now you may ask, well, why is that? Well, McLaren are 39 points back. They need to mount a title charge if they want to have a chance for their constructor to be a part of this. And realistically, they can be a part of this. Mathematically, though, they still will have a chance regardless of having a bad race after today. And Mercedes are 4th and 98 points back. They started off the season quite well and looked like to be a part of this race, but they are no longer a part of this race. Realistically, mathematically they still are, but they need to gain more than 10 points to have a chance after today's race in this fight still. Alright, so we've got a couple of announcements and headlines entering today's race. FBL, is he in the lobby? Nope. Has a qualifying ban. Valkyrie has a qualifying ban from last week's incident. That person is dropped to a reserve. JNT returns to RPL. Welcome back, JNT. It's the first time you've been here since Season 5. Man, that feels so long ago. That was back on F1 2021. 5 seasons ago now. Crazy to say that. He returns. He is in the Alfa Romeo this time, compared to being in the Mercedes. He has raced for the Ferrari Academy before. Lodgevic, due to that, is dropped to a reserve. Lack of attendance. Instincts has been demoted to a reserve. He won here last time in Qatar. And Lennon makes his Haas debut, let alone his RPL debut. Welcome to the league, Lennon. You are pairing Owen for this one. And 2 more things. Hunted is racing with a small injury. No, it's not due to the Singapore incident. It's with his thumbs. So he has kind of raced under a new controller because of that now. And Titan is now the co-team principal of Alpine, kicked out of Ferrari to go to Alpine. We'll figure out a little bit more regarding that story. Alpine Academy, obviously, not just Alpine as a team. This is under Grandpa and Tadpole with the Alpine Academy today. And we'll go through a couple more things before covering laps. Last season in this race and in previous tiers that have ran here, in season number 9 of Tier 1, we got Reese to win the race. It was T.S. Korsman who was second. Excuse me, he was third. Was penalized after an incident. McLaren's first pole in a couple of seasons of RPL. Crispy got his first F2 win here. Scyther won by a long margin in F2 here. What else do we got? Well, we obviously have drivers crossing the line. We'll get to that in a moment. Instincts won the Tier 2 season opener here. Last season, it was for Ferrari. Groggers was battling Instincts until he got DOSed in the last couple of laps. And that put a halt to that. And now we'll see if Groggers can challenge back with a battle this time around. Owen finished on the podium after a qualifying ban, I think. Started last. And one safety car here in Tier 1. We'll see what the percentages are this time around. However, we shine to this event where last week in Tier 2 at Singapore, we're staying on the Middle East of the world, I guess you could say. It was chaos. Tadpole took a podium for Alpine. Alpine's first of the season. 6 different teams on the podium. Another new driver on the podium as well. What in the world? There we go. We have fixed that. We also had Groggers win his first race outside of Europe. He has only won in specifically Europe in this league. And a couple other things as well with that. I believe Hunted's about to start a lap. We'll go on board with him and talk over that. But the other thing being, with last week's race, Alex Bear just short of the podium. Invaded a chance for a podium. Hunted a DNF for him. Lando, who would be J&T's teammate today, first DNF since this race last season. And now we go on board with Hunted, who is second in the championship, racing with an injury, and now we're going to find out what he can do as his teammate goes second fastest. What can the Red Bull driver do? Red Bull have a very strong car around here. Now the driver has to prove it himself. And you have yellow flags, that is for a Haas backing out of the lap and potentially on a cooldown lap. However, about to be in the ending bits of Sector 1. Here comes Hunted, navigating his way through the tricky corners. 26.5. Probably one of the slowest hairpins right there on the track. Then entering the S's, he's a little bit off center, but goes toward the curbing. You're going to be on the inside curbing here. The advantage for drivers like Hunted, Grandpa, and Florian in this race, and maybe Groggers. Don't remember if Groggers raced this race in Tier 1 or not. Beatnik did as well. They all raced this race in Tier 1, so they have that extra bit of experience around here and know what to put their fuel at, know the strategy, so that's going to pay big dividends here today. Penultimate corner now for Hunted. You either do it flat out or almost flat out. Track limits will be key in that corner. Final corner, another corner with track limits. Hunted was talking about invalidating in the last corner when practicing. Doesn't do it this time around. DRS applied on the front straight. Comes to the start-finish line. 21.2 is the benchmark. How about set it at a 20.8? Looking for his 5th pole of the season. Is fastest of anybody right now. Fair play to Hunted. And now we're on board with Mythic, who is starting a lap. AlphaTauri, they've only had 1 points finish this season, and that came back at Austria around number 3. No points since then. Well, Mythic is looking to change that around. He's been on a very good finishing streak for himself. Every time he started an RPL race in the last 11, 12 races, he has finished all of them. So Mythic's done a very, very good job in terms of that. And we'll see if he does continue that streak this week. However, just a little slow there entering the S's from Mythic. But, after all, he isn't the worst car in this game, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. After all, here he comes. Ending bits of the S's. Sector split. What's this going to look like, though, compared to the other drivers? Coming to the penultimate corner now for Mythic. Riding the curbs. Not as aggressive as the other drivers are, and he is planted to the racetrack quite well. Not invalidated yet. Got to get a good final corner. You can see Mythic's taking it very, very easy here, but he's also trying to keep it on the track at the same time. He's going to slot himself in, 13th fastest, just behind Kipu, splitting the two Williams, ahead of Leon. But after all, I do think Mythic can go faster. And how much faster do I think he can go? Well, I think he's got a good 5-6 tenths in him. If he can find a way to push himself there, up 5-6 tenths, he won't be starting in the last row of the grid, obviously, with the qualifying bands of PK and Valkyrie, but it could prevent him very well from starting second to last row in the grid, just because you have Kipu and Leon also near him as well in terms of competition. There are 11 of you watching. Good to have you. Tell us who you're rooting for in the chat. We would love to know. We'll cover your driver you're rooting for, or if you're just rooting for a good race. You know, that's what I like to do as commentator here. We have a championship battle at stake. I believe there's 5-6 drivers still eligible in the driver settings. I'll have to double check, but there's battles everywhere. But there are 3 realistic drivers to have a chance. That is Grandpa in the McLaren, Hunted in the Red Bull, and Groggers in the Ferrari. All those 3 within 34 points. And we head to excuse me. We head to the penultimate round next week. And oh! That was the Red Bull getting in the way there of Tadpole, of Hunted. The Red Bull being Hunted, the McLaren being Tadpole. You just saw right there, Tadpole went for a slide trying to avoid that. That will likely go to the steward's office. Hunted definitely got in the way there. And he could be facing some punishment. Tadpole obviously back at the lap beforehand. Has not set a lap yet, but invalidated the one that he was just about to be on. I'm going board with a teammate of JTK for Red Bull. I must say, to those of you watching, really appreciate it, as always, for this league, for myself, whatever, everything else. The admin team, the other commentators in this league, we really appreciate it because this is actually the most max viewership. I just saw it spike at 11 for a moment. That's the most since last season at round number 9 as well, funny enough. We're at round number 9 of the season. Round number 9 was at Las Vegas. The 2 Ferraris had a photo finish, and Groggers lost out on that one, second place. But now, driver who's just ahead of Groggers on the timing chart is JTK, and we're going to see if he can pick up a slipstream here from the Ferrari driver of Groggers. He doesn't get to do so because Groggers backs out of the lap, or at least of the out lap he was on. JTK now coming through the penultimate corner. Something we don't always talk about is family relations in RPL. You know, we had Aaron Ocon and Polo God who raced here a while ago. We've got JTK and Mick PK who race here in the same academy, both family. JTK comes to the line. JTK makes the Red Bull 1-2. How about that for JTK? Red Bull need this. They're 28 points back in the constructors table, just behind Ferrari. They need a good race today, and if they can sit here in the front row, they're setting their sights up pretty well for the race. Let's see, Hunted was on a lap. He's 97 thousandths up now. Can he go into the 20.7s, let alone 20.6s? How about a chance for a 20.5, 2 tenths up in the middle sector? Now, that triple right is a tricky one. Speaking of that, he just invalidated, so commentators curse right there. But Hunted needed a good race today, no doubt about it. Up to last week, he was finishing in the points every single week. Failed to do so last week after his DNF. But we'll see how he does this week for a change. Who is on a lap here right now? JTK's on a cooldown lap. Leon Miner's just finishing a lap. Leon Miner goes ahead of Mythic. Very well done by Leon, and I must say, I gave him tons of credit in the Discord chat previous to this race. Reason being, everyone knows Leon as one of these drivers in this league who is very controversial. And you think, oh, well, did he do something off track? No, it's all on track. It's literally all on track, and it's all tons of clips you could find for Leon's sake in this league that shine him as a driver for a very negative way. And I don't like to talk about anyone in a negative way, but, you know, when we talk about drivers who have gone through a lot, we talk about Make PK, one of the drivers who've gotten involved in incidents. I would kind of add Valkyrie to that list a little bit, but not as much as some of the other drivers as well. Either way, Blue Goggy got a season ban though. Zakaria, a season ban. You know, for earlier incidents in the season back at Hungary. But a driver who's been on everybody's radar for improvement, and it should be noted more, is Leon. He got a points finish last week in Singapore, third points finish this season, had 2 last season, in less races, of course, because of the incident at Spa that got him a rest of the season ban. Also, include the fact that Leon has finished every race in this game cycle. So even if he's been in the smallest of incidents this season, he has been penalized quite a bit. Not a whole lot, less than last season, which is an improvement, and no DNFs. So Leon deserves the credit right there. I'm gonna continue to praise it as long as I can, because he really can very much on his day get a good finish for Williams, and they really much need it. They've not been getting the finishes in Tier 1, and that was Lennon getting blocked by the Alfa Romeo of JNT. That is the second impediment we've seen in this qualifying session with just 2.5 minutes to go. You want to get on track now, but not only that, you want to get a lap going, because stuff like that could happen. That definitely affected the Haas. Now we watch the other Haas of Owen. We'll go on board with this one final lap, and then we will switch it to the main feed, the main straight, and go on board with drivers there. End of Sector 2. Going a little wide there, the double right. Owen said, I just need to do the lap I did in time trial and repeat that over and over again. However, he's not really repeating the lap he did previously too much. Down by 200s in the first sector. Now he comes to the S's. The S's is also tricky. You got to arc some of the corners, and you just got to plant your car on the racetrack just perfectly. Now coming to one of the slowest sections on the track, he is invalidated, so not good for last season's champion. And in fact, we talk about last season. Well, in fact, it was really this race last season where everything started from, all the magic with that consecutive podium streak. Then he missed some races at the end of the season, Vegas being one of them, Italy where he clinched the championship, and then we switched our sights to over at Brazil, where he last raced on a Red Bull for the Red Bull Academy, and he finished outside the points, I believe. No, he finished outside the podium, excuse me. He almost finished outside the points, but Mythic invalidates Owen as well, retiring from the session. Now we're coming for our final laps. It is now or never for the drivers to get out on track. It looks like everybody should make the flag except for Alex Bear for a second lap. He might be okay. We'll see. 52 seconds remaining. JNT's out of this session. Lennon's out of this session. And now we've got drivers coming to the line. Some are completing laps, some are not. Alex Bear on a lap. Mythic gonna start another one. But here comes Trat Racer, the first one of the big names to start a lap. Got Alex Bear coming to the line. Is Alex Bear on an outlap or a lap that will improve him? Alex Bear is on a lap. Now we go on board with the Mercedes and Tret Racer. Chat, give us your predictions for pole. Tret Racer's up by 14 thousandths. Checkered flag about to be out in the next 10 seconds. It's now or never to make the flag. Everybody will. And Alex Bear crosses the line to go second row. Alex Bear, P3 for Ferrari. Best start yet. Got his best start last week with fourth. The question now becomes, can he keep it? Tret Racer comes now to the sector split. He is 82 thousandths improving. And it would set himself ahead of Team Principal Beatnik. Now he's looking to set himself ahead of Florian. He raced this race in Tier 1, got a good finish, had great pace, and is trying to set himself up in the field for Mercedes. Mercedes needed the only Mercedes car to qualify in this session. Final corner now for Truck Racer. 3 finishes consecutively outside the points, trying to change it with a good starting spot. Comes to the line. 7th fastest. Times are improving, but not as much as expected. The McLaren heads to the pit lane. That is Tadpole. You could see now coming to the line is the Red Bull. JTK invalidated. JTK cannot improve. Hunted couldn't either. And now it's up to Groggers, who is not at a pole this season yet, is going to be 4th. So he still continues to not have a pole. Florian is up in the time. Florian improves, but no place is improved. Beatnik for Aston Martin had a good race going for them in Tier 1. How about 7th on the grid, improves on the spot. Next across the line is going to be a Williams. Only a couple more drivers to go. It is Leon Miner ahead of Kipu, the teammate. Now Kipu, is he going to go ahead of Leon Miner? The answer is yes. The only driver yet to cross the line now is Alex Bear. However, Alex Bear invalidated the in-lap and did not go for a second one. It is going to be Hunted for the 5th time this season. Red Bull for the 5th time this season. And it's another front row lockout with the 2 Red Bulls on the front row. Hunted needed it. Hunted got it. 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris make up the first 2 rows. Alex Bear with his best start. JTK, no pole yet, but just so close to that teammate. JTK and Hunted, a little teammate rivalry we've had for the last couple of weeks. They've got into it on track, and they've got into it off track. Let's see if they keep it clean this time. Grandpa, who was on pole last week, 5th place for him. Could only manage 5th. That is a big surprise, but your championship leader starts behind the 2 championship protagonists chasing him. Florian and Beatnik for Aston Martin. Truck Racer as well there. Owen and Lennon. Lennon in the debut is 10th. It rounds out the top 10. Outside the top 10, you got Tadpole at the back there. Didn't get a lap. Valkyrie didn't get a lap. Obviously, the qualifying ban. PK with a qualifying ban. And the Alfa Romeo J&T making the return to RPL and is 11th for Alfa Romeo. Nice qualifying from him, but can he improve on it for some points in an Alfa Romeo debut? Alex Baird did that for Alfa Romeo. Got a promotion to Ferrari, but seats are filling up for next season. So we'll keep you informed on that. If there is a safety car at any point in the race, a reminder for those of you continuing to watch the action week in, week out. Next week for Tier 2, we are at Mexico. F2 tomorrow is at Spain. There will be no stream for that. However, if you go to the RPL Instagram, same as the Twitch name, we will provide you with a link to watch from a driver's onboard. No stream, so JTK is rooting for himself. Good to hear. Get in your predictions chat for those of you watching. Lastly, F1 is also tomorrow at Brazil. Championship clinched. We need another one to be clinched. And will that happen here today? No, it won't. But it could happen for F2, so keep your eyes out on that one. Strategy for the race: soft, hard, medium, hard, and you could go with a Hail Mary, soft, medium. The hards last up to about 20 laps, and we are looking at a pit stop loss of 24 seconds. That is a little bit bigger than some of the racetracks we do go to, so we'll watch out for that. Now we're just waiting on drivers and some of their strategies. Got some on the softs, some on the mediums, some on the hards. Some may change that, though. Here we go. It comes time for round number 9, Qatar. The second time RPL Tier 2 is raced here. It's lights out. Away we go. You can see a little bit of wheel spin from JTK. Gets off the line okay. Now he's going to protect second place for his teammate. And the Ferraris are going to split him. 3 wide here. You can see jockeying for position. Alex Baird to the far inside. And now, that was Groggers. And now GTK getting swermed. Grandpa down positions. Alex Baird takes over second place, and they keep it clean so far. J&T loses spots. Owen up a spot. And then you can see the Alfa Romeo in the background going off the road. That was JTK. J&T, excuse me. And cars going off the track. Cars weaving and bobbing. And now side by side with Trev Racer and Grandpa. Trev Racer gets the squeeze. And Grandpa covers the place, and Grandpa loses traction on corner exit. They all keep it clean here to Sector 2. No front wings missing so far, at least notably that we can tell. The 2 hosses swapped, Lennon and Owen. And now for the lead. Alex Bair is closer. Alex Bair is right in the back of Hunted already. In the background, Mythic and Valkyrie. Valkyrie at the very back of the grid, going around the outside. Gets the move done, it looks like. Up in front of that, though, other cars follow with one another. Just very close. The limits. Everyone's going to be pushing the gaps. Everyone's close enough to one another to make an overtake. But lap 1 about to come to an end. You can see the tires now. Some of the strategies the drivers are going for. Alex Bear on the hards. Hunted on the mediums. Now you behind that, cars ducking out, trying to find their braking point, following the other cars. How about J&T and Valkyrie racing it out? P13 here. Car J&T used to race, and now the car J&T does race the Alfa Romeo. Now you go back to 6th place, where Trent Racer on the soft tires, the highest soft runner of the 5. 5 drivers started on the softs. And falling behind Grandpa. Grandpa gave him quite the squeeze here. And everyone clean so far in lap 1. Hunted thought it was going to be a chaotic race. I asked him prior to the race, what do you think it's going to be like? He said it's going to be chaotic. Multiple safety cars. Probably at least one. Well, nothing yet. And no front wing gone. So the driver's keeping it very clean, it must be said. As of this moment. And it could very well change. Everybody's staying single file. No position swapped in this lap. However, Hunted has kept Alex Bear quite well at bay. Behind. He's got the teammate of Groggers behind. If the live standings were to be shown on screen right now, we'd have Ferrari having a bigger lead on Red Bull. McLaren as well out of that race a little bit. A race back now. And you can see Tadpole getting J&T in front of that. Valkyrie and Leon Minor. And now the battles keep heating up. Here's Lennon and Beatnik going side by side. Lennon in his debut gets through on Beatnik. Nicely done there in turn 1. Behind that, Valkyrie and Leon stay content with where they're at. Leon, you can see underfueling though. And that will be a big concern. You saw a couple drivers, most notably recent Corsman, staying behind one another, refusing to overtake because they wanted to save fuel. Last week in Tier 1, we had some drivers run out of fuel. Silverstone, it was a concern for Tier 1 drivers. Japan, it was a concern for Tier 1 drivers. We've not really seen the same thing happen too often in Tier 2 just yet, but we really could here today with a race that would likely have no safety cars with how clean it's been so far. And you got Tadpole in the back of Leon Minor. Tadpole severely needs this place for McLaren in the sake of their constructors battle. A podium for Tadpole last week, a best finish of the season. Tadpole had multiple lap 1 incidents to start the season. 3 consecutive DNFs. Then backed it up with 3 consecutive finishes and has really done well since. And now looking to make the move on Leon. They come together. Tadpole's off. And is he going to hit the wall? No, but he's swarmed in the gravel. And that is the first incident of this race as Mythic picks up a 3-second time penalty. First driver to exceed the track limits 3 times. Tadpole gets a 10-second time penalty that surely will be appealed. And now up in front, the 2 Ferraris going at it. Grogger swaps with Alex Bear. Valkyrie through on Kipu. And even behind that, J&T and Leon. A nice little 3-car ding-dong battle. Leon still getting under threat from Mythic. And Mythic continues to put the pressure on Leon, causing him to slide. Mistake from Leon there, but no places change after that one. And Leon Minor, another driver to pick up a penalty. You can see in the background as well, I believe that was a position being traded. I couldn't see exactly who it was, but I believe it was between Mythic and Leon Minor. As I just picked up the replay from the stream. By the way, no rain during this race. So that is a good sight. Make PK, either in AI or not in the session. We'll figure that out in a moment. Either way, Hunted is extended the lead quite well. And I think Grogger said it the best of anybody as Tret Racer comes to the pit lane. We'll see if there's any damage on his car. I do think Grogger said it best. He said, once Hunted gets in the lead, there's no stopping him. But once he has some threat for the lead, there is stopping him. So we'll see how that Fares out. Valkyrie and Owen switching spots right here as well. Valkyrie gets out ahead on corner exit, and Tret Racer out of the pit lane now onto the mediums. So surely the softs are not wearing that quickly. However, if these soft drivers do pit anytime soon, at the earliest it should be lap 8, lap 9, preferably 10 if you're wanting to extend and go to the hards or mediums. But, I mean, I expect most drivers who are on the softs to do a one-stop. That's what we have in store. We had a Mexico on our strategy list that there would be a projected one-stop only. There's a chance for a two-stop at Mexico, but only 2 drivers went with it. And I was even surprised by that myself. Must be said, less overtakes than normal compared to this Tier 2 field. This Tier 2 field is usually balls to the walls, fighting at every lap. However, so far in the 5 laps today, that's just not been the case. Must be noted as well, we mentioned AlphaTauri not having points so far since round 3. All teams have scored points this season, so no one's under threat for that. The 2 Ferraris back at it again. Here they go. They're under threat from the Aston Martin of Florian now. They do swap. Florian wants his chance down the inside, side by side with the previous team principal. Round number 2 of this battle. They had this back in Hungary, side by side to turn number 2. Grogers gives the pinch. Florian still remains on the outside line, and Grogers shuts the door, but it opens it for JTK now, who fell back from the start. And now they touch! They touch! Grogers is around! Grogers in front of the field! And that is super big to this championship race. JTK got a piece of that. And Grogers trembling down the order. 34 points he came back in this title race, entering this race. Right now, if this race were to end, 44 back. Not crucial at all. If Grogers wants to have a chance to stay in this title race by the end of today, I mean, I'm talking mathematically, not realistically. He needs to be less than 52 points back from Grandpa. This does not help the case here. Grogers, Florian, who was at fault, but the 2 previous drivers in the same academy, one was a team principal for the other, one was a driver for the other, came together right there. Whose fault was it? Well, the stores will determine that. Tadpole and PK swap spots right there. And now JTK going to give pressure to Florian for P3. And up in front of that, Florian DRS on P2. Kipu as well with a time penalty. Beatnik gets Lennon. With all this happening, Lennon in the debut race in RPL moves up a place. Very well deserved by that one. Taking full advantage of any mistakes. Well, P2 still stays close, but the gap now to Hunted, 1.7. And you can see Florian goes a little wide right there. A little mistake. Gonna invite Hunted, or sorry, JTK to the inside, excuse me. Hunted's Red Bull who's leading, excuse me. However, it really has set Grogers back as he's now P11 behind the 2 academy teammates, Owen and JNT, excuse me. JNT, JTK. That's going to be a confusing one, I must say. Now at the back of the grid, Tret Racer and PK have swapped spots. Tret Racer is already pitted. PK is not. It must be said, with JTK getting involved in that collision, it must be noted, Red Bull have DNF'd with at least one of their cars the last 2 rounds. They've got to be careful in terms of how they race other drivers. And I say this not in disrespect to Red Bull, but into respect of the fact that they're trying to catch Ferrari in the championship gap. And, in fact, that collision ultimately catches them up in the championship with how close Ferrari were to one another and ahead of a Red Bull with both drivers. Now they've got both drivers at least ahead of one Ferrari. So, helping Ferrari out helping out Red Bull out quite well. Lennon makes the move on Beatnik inside line, throws it in there, gets ahead, very nicely done. Kipu pits, and he's on the soft tires, so we'll take a look at him. JNT is now fighting it out with Grogers for P10 in this race. Well, doing a nice job in his return in RPL so far. Last race he did. You have to go all the way back to the Season 5 Tier 2 finale. It has been that long. And I'm even surprised about that myself. I remember watching, J&T racing. I race engineered in that one race in Australia myself. I'm thinking, surely this is only a couple seasons ago, right? No, it's 5 seasons ago. That amazes me. So, some things you look at just amaze you. He lets the team principal go. Smart move right there because Groggers is in much more of a fight compared to him. Stay in DRS or Groggers. See if you can learn something. It's a smart move from JNT. And speaking of smart, Taunted has really done a good job of pulling this gap to Alex Bear. I know Alex Bear's on the hard tires, so he'll do better by the second stint. But it's now a 2.3 gap, which was a 1.7 gap. We did not look at the positions gained, but there's not anybody who notably gained too much. See Mythic gained 2. Tadpole 2. Lennon and Valkyr are the only 2 who really gained much. And here we go. Grandpa, JTK, Florian. JTK inside line on Florian. Grandpa there to pounce if something happens. Sticks in behind these 2. Doesn't choose to fight it out. However, lives another day with that one. And JTK did the same with Florian. And now in the background, Groggers gets Owen. Owen, 3 points finishes the season, trying for a 4th, run inside the points as we currently stand. But the DRS train, not really doing anything notable to catch Hunted. They are staying with one another, not battling it out too hard in order to hinder their pace. However, who's the fastest car? Who's going to be the one that would catch Hunted? It looks like Alex Bear's doing an okay job at that right now, but is there any person better who would be able to challenge Hunted based on the pace? Must be said as well, Florian running on the podium. He got a podium last time in Hungary. This is his first podium for Aston Martin. 2 different podiums, 2 different teams so far this season. 1 at Ferrari, 1 at Aston Martin. Still continue to ride within DRS of one another. Waiting for the right time. 3 of them have the rear wing open. 1 of them doesn't, and that one is just continuing to try to protect. However, how much longer? Florian gonna send it, it looks like, from a little bit back, but does not get the move done. Lennon continuing to battle it out with Beatnik. Again, they trade spots. Mythic to the pit lane. He was one of the drivers on the soft tires. The only one on the soft tires you have to pit is Make PK, and I don't think he's in the session. The car's ghosted. I will ask about that in case of something going on in terms of not being in the session. Grandpa spins around. Virtual safety car is out. The championship leader's in trouble. And he's got no front wing with it. Grandpa scored points in every round, but this could be a very big risk for him right now. Let alone McLaren, who have scored in every round. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe that. The championship leader, who was trailing, or sorry, who was ahead of Hunted, who's trailing 19 points, entering this race. If this race were to end right now, that gap in the standings, you can ultimately call it a tie right now. Without the fastest lap. Let's see who's got fastest lap. Yeah, it's Hunted. So it would be actually a 1-point lead. He pits. They take their chance under the virtual safety car. It depends on when that virtual safety car is going to end for these drivers to make an educated guess on if it's the right time to pit or not. A majority of them coming in, some staying out, continuing to extend, maybe waiting on a safety car. However, Hunted in, Florian as well. Tret Racer out of this race. Will they bring out the safety car? It is not triggered yet, but that is a crash on track. We'll look at where that's at on the track, though. Oh, that was toward the entering the penultimate corner. Obviously, the VSC is already ended, but Hunted comes out 7th place, and now it's a safety car. Now the safety car is out. That is exactly why some of these guys waited on pitting. And now, it's going to cost Hunted. Well, that was a late safety car, it must be said, compared to usual. Usually the safety car comes out within the 5 seconds of the driver retiring. Or at least gets upgraded after a VSC. Not the VSC gets let go, then it's green, then it updates to a full safety car. That usually does not happen. It's a rare occurrence, but Alex Bear leads over JTK. Did not pit yet, by the way, so they'll get a free pit stop here. And they did time it very nicely, it must be said. It was also kind of luck of the draw, though, too. You also got to remember, these guys are on the hard tires, though, so they don't have to pit now, but they have a chance to make it to the end of the race on the medium tires. And that is exactly why you see all 3 of the top 3 pitting. Yeah, I mean that's kind of accurate, Titan. NASCAR-style safety car. Remove Trett's car, then put it out anyway for debris. Yep. Leon gets a penalty, excuse me. All 4 Academy drivers behind pit. Hunted staying out, obviously, for quite clear reasons. However, the race is out of the pit lane. Alex Bear comes out of the pit lane. Hunted ahead of the teammate, but not ahead of Alex Bear. He had nearly a 3-second lead before this happened. Now, he's behind Alex Bear. So that's the difference between pitting under a virtual safety car and pitting under the safety car. Paid big dividends to Alex. Herded Hunted. Obviously, if there was a safety car anyway, it would have herded Hunted, but he would at least have the lead and be able to control the pace. Now Alex is the one controlling the pace. Remember, Alex won from a qualifying ban in Belgium. I deserved the qualifying ban by switching to Ferrari. A little late decision, so if it's a late decision and a last-minute decision within 15 minutes of the race, you will have a qualifying ban to serve. Some think the rule is stupid. Can understand it. But he's got 1 win, 1 podium. Best qualifying of P3 with this week's race. And 4 points finishes his 4 races that he's done so far. So, the new driver, quite showing his strides well so far, it must be said. And you know who this puts back in this race? This puts Groggers back in this race. I mean, yes, the virtual safety car did help Grandpa in some aspects, even if he pitted or not, just because he wouldn't be able to lose any more time being under the VSC. But this safety car puts him completely back in this race. Remember, he broke his front wing in Austria and won the race. It was contact with that person that broke his front wing completely. Did the rest of the lap. This was after turn 1. Did the rest of the lap. Ended up... Oh, we got a position swap. I guess Florian and JTK had something happen. But, yeah, he completely broke his front wing from contact. Pitted. Got back in this race after the 3 leaders of that person, Hunted, and Florian collided. And got back in the race and ended up winning it. And he even had a 3-second as well to spare with it. He would have won in Spa. Alex Bear appealed the penalty that he had. He would have won in Silverstone, track limits. And he's won 2 races already, with Bahrain being one of them. And the other being at Austria, obviously. I had to check for a moment just to be 100%. But there you go. So there is that. Yeah, the only time he's started all but 1 race. The only time he's not finished on the podium, funny enough, is back in Spain. So Grandpa can pull something out of his sleeve here if it's possible. And I do see him doing that. This is an easy... Well, I say it's an easy track to overtake, but at the same time, you know, the first 5 laps of this race do prove otherwise. However, I do think it is an easier track to overtake at compared to most. We go to Mexico next week, which is, I would say, harder to overtake at. Brazil is similar in terms of overtaking percentage around here. So, and Austria you can overtake at easily, and he won the race from it, coming back to the field. Grandpa doesn't have the pace to win this race, in my opinion, but door is wide open with Hunter not leading now. Podium is wide open. Look at how this race is flipped upside down for some of these drivers. Not all, but some. With the safety car coming out. Lennon in the points for Haas on the debut. Valkyrie from a qualifying ban in the points for Mercedes. A couple parts that were added to next season's lineup. It's not fully updated, but we'll go over that now. Safety car is about to come in, so we'll do it quickly here. Alex Bear controls the pace. However, we'll look at this quickly. So, next season... Oh, why can I not find it? I will hold off from doing that. I'll wait till after. We've got the safety car coming in. We've got Alex Bear leading. I wish I could find it. I wish it was right in front of me. Oh, there it is now. I see it. All right, just waiting on Alex Bear to come in. Or sorry, safety car to come in. Safety car is in. And Alex Bear to go. Alex Bear waiting. The field getting caught up. And now he's on the gas. Here we go. Green flag back out in the air. Racing back underway. And now Florian already putting the challenge for third place in this race on JTK. Can he get through? Lennon now on the outside of Beatnik. They've been battling all race, but in the background, Grandpa getting two already. Contact between the Haas of Owen and Grandpa. They come together for a second. However, they get out okay. Owen ahead of J&T after a little bit of side-by-side action right there. Todd Pohl following in the background, and in front of that, they get close for second place to two teammates. JTK is ahead of Hunted. So JTK getting through on the teammate. These two have been back at it once again. However, no contact this time compared to their rivalry they had in Spa. Lennon and Valkyrie now battling it out. Sixth place for Valkyrie. Or sorry, sixth place on the cards for Valkyrie. Sixth place is now Lennon. And behind that, you can see Leon Miner at the very back of the grid trading spots with Make PK. Make PK, I don't think he's in this session. But Tadpole, the fourth driver to pick up a penalty. Remember, in this Tier 1 race earlier this season, we had nearly all the drivers with a penalty by the end of this race. I think there was only one or two, maybe three, who ended this race without a track limit penalty. Tadpole following Mythic. That gets tight right there for position. Grandpa as well on the fringes of points. Loses the rear. Makes a mistake, goes into Owen, and is now around, and could be out of this race. That's the second time he's had a collision, and Grandpa brings up the virtual safety car. Grandpa in more championship trouble, and a second championship contender. How about a third championship contender, in fact, for the second week running in trouble. This time, Grandpa's outside the points. Grogger's back in the points from it all, and that lead is just going to continue to shrink. Championship wide open once again. Does it get upgraded? We'll see what happens this time. We know not to trust the VSC too much, with that being said. And it hasn't been upgraded yet. Only one DNF this race. That was the cause of the first safety car. We've got our second VSC. JTK gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. That is going to hurt Red Bull. How about, we spoke about the Drivers' Championship with trouble. How about Red Bull with trouble here? Red Bull have had trouble with one car. Ferrari have had trouble with one car. McLaren have had trouble with both cars already. And they're the top three constructors in the championship right now. Door wide open. And JTK, who's not finished worse than 6th this season, except for one race, back at his DNF at Spa, is now going to have to come to the pit lane after this lap ends. It will give second place to his teammate, but can he put pressure on Alex Bear before he does have to pit and serve the drive-thru? Valkyrie getting through on Lennon, last on the grid to P6. Tadpole also getting through on Mythic. They're going to go side-by-side entering turn 1. Mythic's not going to try a late dive. However, they do remain single file on the run to turn 2. Very neatly done. So it looks like the top 10 in pursuit of DRS, when that is enabled, should be next lap. And we'll see how that plays out. Must be said, you know, Valkyrie is on 4 consecutive... Valkyrie, on 4 consecutive points finishes. And, in fact, had that first podium in Spain. Looking for more. And could today be the day? I mean, look at this. She's got 2 Aston Martins in front of her. JTK's got a drive-through. It's not that hard to get a podium from where she's at. She just needs to continue to be strong on her pace. J&T now putting pressure on Owen. For P number 9, I need to turn down the audio just a little bit. Just a little loud. Especially considering there's nobody in the party except for myself. And JTK does pit for the drive-thru. It's a little too quiet now. Let's get a nice medium. Here we go. That's good. All right, cool. Behind that, JNT and Owen, excuse me, trade spots. Owen has to concede the place. JNT ahead. Kipu and Mythic having a nice little battle here for P11. Kipu ahead. And JTK serves the drive-through. Grandpa with a 3-second time penalty. Remember, that is outside the points. He's at the back of the grid. Florian with a 3-second now. So that puts Beatnik on the net podium. Grandpa being P16 in this race as of this moment. 43 seconds back. He really has no chance at gaining unless there's a safety car. And we're past halfway in this race, so not a lot of time. JNT, first penalty for him this race. A slide from Hunted, but he is in the penalty box. That is the 7th different driver in the penalty box. My goodness. Now the top 3 within DRS. The detection point right there. You can see Florian going off the road once again. And remember, I want to mention this because of Grogger's sake. He won last week. We didn't mention this a whole lot, but the winner of round 8, as Leon Miner picks up yet another penalty. The winner of round 8, which was last week Grogger's, has went on to win the last 3 drivers' titles for RPL. Let's see if that happens with him this time. JTK and PK trade spots. I don't even think PK's in the session. I've not asked Luke or Jack, who are spectating. Both help out with the league. I'm going to ask them if PK is in the session. Just want to get some clarity on that, because if PK's not, there's a rule about not finishing race with like 75% distance of competing in it and not being in your car. Grandpa now sets the fastest lap for McLaren, so nicely done there. But is it just too little too late for him? He's 22 seconds back from PK. I mean, he's got a chance to steal points if people fall out of this race. There's a safety car. I mean, we saw what happened to Grogger's. We saw what happened to JTK. We saw what happened to Tadpole. I mean, it's not happened to many people this race, but the notable ones are drivers trying to fight for their sake in the team's point of view, for the constructors, or the driver's point of view. So, yes, a lot can happen, but will it even happen? Speaking of that, Hunted around the outside now on Alex Bear. Switchback time on the run to turn 2. Tries the outside line, can't get the move done. Now Groggers goes up a place into P6 ahead of Lennon, who's now having a nice little race here for Haas, it must be said. Hunted close again for the lead, but not close enough for an overtake to be made. Alex Bear under some pressure. And Florian, who's right there for P3, by the way, is Grandpa. Third spin of the race. Must be mentioned. Hunted, P2, 2 seconds out of Florian, 2.5 seconds out of Florian, who is P3 in this race. He was within DRS by the restart for a couple laps. Now that has drastically changed, and Grandpa, your championship leader, is out of this race in the pit lane. After a 3rd time of crashing, he will go into Mexico with threat of losing the championship lead. If Hunted remains with the fastest lap, which he does not have now, but he had earlier, he would tie Grandpa in the championship lead. Tiebreaker would go on podiums. Grandpa would keep the championship lead, but still, if he takes over the lead, that does not matter because he would take it over. That's why he is fighting so hard with Alex Bear here to stay within DRS, put some pressure on him. The battery difference really just separated by 5%. Hunted has a look, can't get the move done. Beatnik and Florian, the 2 teammates, battle it out. However, Beatnik has more battery to spare. And fair play from Valkyrie, nice little race, but now being under threat from Groggers. I think we saw a move for P9. That was Owen and Tadpole. JTK gets Mythic, the Academy teammate. DRS still for P3 to P7, but no moves being made as of this current moment. No one is close enough. If Hunted were to win this race, the pole sitter would have won the last 5 of the last 13 races, excuse me. A stat that's really been, you know, not much the case for Tier 1 or F2. So, hunted 5 poles this season. Red Bull 5 poles this season. I said it'd work out quite well for the race if they just start up front, and it has. GTK might be outside the points. Did have that happen with him, with the drive-through. But as we know it, anything can happen. And speaking of that, your race leader, Alex Bear, with a time penalty. Your race leader, who's been under threat for the last couple of laps, now in the penalty club. That is going to change this race, no doubt about it. Because this now puts a lot more of a calmer attitude on Hunted. And now behind that, Valkyrie, Florian, they all follow one another. How about a 4-car race into turn 1? Valkyrie on the far outside, Grogger standing on the inside. They come together. That's Florian around, Grogger's around. The second time they've come together in this race, and Valkyrie got a piece of that as well. Moving the House of Lennon up to P4. Oh my goodness. The steward's office is not going to be happy with Grogger's and Florian. I mean, Grogger's sent it. Grogger's sent it. Balls to the walls. Went in quite deep. And, again, was it out of desperation? That becomes the question. He could be facing penalties. Grandpa could be facing a penalty. I believe he had an incident with another driver, if I'm correct. No, that was Tadpole in qualifying, excuse me. But Tadpole could be facing a penalty from McLaren for their constructor's sake. Hunted hasn't been in much trouble besides being kind of screwed by the safety car in some aspect. Still P2 now, though, having strong pace to Alex Bear. Alex Bear with the penalty for Ferrari. Grogger's in 2 incidents already. Grandpa in incidents. It's all kicked off this race, and it's mostly been the championship contenders, as I said. No one else. Valkyrie damage right there. Comes to the pit lane. Similar to last season, it was a lack of attendance that opened up a not a championship battle, excuse me, a battle within, for a podium, let alone other drivers getting good results. This time around, it's the championship contenders and contenders for constructors' sakes in trouble. That has opened it up for a Haas P4, an Aston P3, and an Alfa Romeo in P5 right now. One of which is on his debut, one of which is on his RPL return, and the others behind that are chasing them. Tadpole from McLaren, P6 from last, Groggers. P7 right now on the road. Wouldn't gain an awful lot of ground on Grandpa in the championship, but you know what? He would be within closer proximity, excuse me. DRS train goes from 6th place back to 9th. DRS for Lennon, who's on the back of Beatnik. Haas got a podium around number 9 of it last season, back in Vegas. And Hunted, who returned to RPL at Vegas last season, is looking to take over the championship lead, let alone the race lead, but has it right now with Alex Bear having the penalty. Does Hunted wait for it or go now? Hunted in the slipstream waits. Now, you could see, by the way, Alex Bear and Hunted within 10% of the battery. Beatnik and Lennon, it's really close between them. J&T's nearly below 10%, and now Florian and Owen swap spots. Florian ahead for P8. Side by side out of the exit of the corner. Owen goes off the road. Owen back on. Inside line for the next corner. They almost come together. Florian off the road, and that's the 3rd time a Ferrari Academy driver has tapped Florian in this race. Now Florian going to send it. Inside line. Oh, that was a bit ballsy, but has to back out of it and does just that. You know, you can definitely see, compared to earlier in the season from Florian in Austria, he's learned a bit of that racecraft and honestly realized I don't have to go for every move here. P3 is close once again. Aston Martin would be getting their 2nd podium this season. 2nd different driver. Beatnik, let's talk about some of the drivers who are full-time for next season in seats. Beatnik is in Mercedes. It looks like Owen could be making up the 2nd Mercedes spot alongside him. Tadpole and Grandpa would be full-time McLaren next season as well. Hunted would go to Haas for next season. Very interesting indeed. Red Bull already had 2 drivers for next season. Bonkers, who won round 9 last season, goes to Red Bull full-time. He had a couple races with them last season at the end. Florian gets Owen, by the way, for P8. And Hunted would be alongside Mythic. I think that'd be nice for them, too. Those two are very nice friends. They're in the Red Bull Academy now. Yeah, so why not? Leon and Mythic, nice little battle for P12 in this race. No points awarded here, but it must be said, though, the more races these two finish, if they tie in points, I mean, finish every race you can. Hell, boost it for next season. Speaking of that, we'll speak of more drivers in pursuit of next season for those of you here right now. Alex, Bear, and Stenner make up Ferrari. That person went to a reserve for next season as well. Instincts goes to Alpine. Kipu at Williams. And there are more signings that I did not get on my list, but I have to go through driver contracts for. Hunted going to Alpine, excuse me, instead of Alfa Romeo. Figured that out. It was the contract being resolved, so that's why. Now he's closer for the race lead. Can he get by Alex Bear just yet? No. Backs off, and what I think he's doing, because you could see the battery difference now, he's saving battery to charge up a last lap battle between these two, or last 2 laps battle. P3 still stays content, but Lennon gets a penalty in the process. Just not what is needed right there. And Groggers will take 2 positions here from that, by the way, with those penalties, as Tadpole will appeal the 10-second, but probably won't appeal the 3-second, though. Groggers would get 2 spots, and it would put him 24 back in the championship if Hunted does not win this race. Valkyrie going to Aston Martin, by the way. Invade keeping himself at Aston Martin. Invade's done well, I would say. In the races he has done. Valkyrie, obviously there was no seat for her at Mercedes, but Nasta's seat is very nice, though, because she can still perform well in points. And, I mean, like, here's the thing. She got involved in the incident, and, again, either, and speaking of her, she takes the fastest lap. She's either in the right place, wrong time, or getting herself involved in incidents that were her fault. And that's the problem. You know, that sort of luck is luck of the draw in a way, but also could be blamed on yourself too. That's the thing. Gecko also has an Alfa Romeo seat for next season as well. Taking over, I believe, Haunted spot, maybe? Florian picks up a penalty. That's P8. No, Hunted was at Haas, excuse me. So, it would be Alfa Romeo. Tadpole and J&T, excuse me. Trade spots in the front straight. J&T going to let the teammate go. Very smart move right there to at least have Groggers go mount a late race attack to maybe get P4. Could very well do so. And with all the incidents that happened in this race, to be fair, could very well do just that. But yeah, those are your lineups for next season. I know it was a lot. I will update it on the social media here for RPL in the upcoming weeks. But 10 of you tuning in, make sure you tune in next week for Mexico as well, Brazil after that, and Spain and Brazil are tomorrow for F2 and F1. Back to the battles. We got to get back to that because we are going to see an overtake very soon here. I can guarantee you that, because Hunted has charged up that battery very much so. See what the ERS is doing to him. It's just flickering numbers. See what he's doing? He's not using it there, but that section uses it up on its own. The thing is, in the pit lane, you know, we did not get to say how much you gain back in the pit lane, but if there was green flag stops here, you would gain back 17 in the pit lane. So really, I mean, he's really gaining back now what he didn't gain back in the pit lane from earlier in this race. Must be said. In the background, Lennon and Beatnik are duking it out for P3 on the road, but it's going to come at the cost of finishing 1 spot short of that podium for a Haas because of the penalty that Lennon has. All you just got to do now is put pressure on Beatnik to force him into a penalty here. And Beatnik's one of those drivers who usually become penalty-free. Valkyrie takes P14. Too little, too late for points, but could very well steal the fastest lap off of anybody trying to go for it in the late stages of this race. Haas, they've got points in 5 races this season, you know? I mean, it's much better from what they did last season. if I'm being honest with you. They had podiums, but that was really their only highlights with any points. I think they had like 3 different podiums. Japan was one of them. Vegas was one of them. They would become the 7th different team to take a podium this season if they could just hold on. And Red Bull, with Hunted now, would continue a 24 race streak now. It would be after this race for consecutive points finishes. You got to go back all the way to May 2023, the last time they didn't score. They've been on a good streak so far. And after this race, very well today, they could be either leading the, well, not leading, either closing in on the constructors or not. Now, closing in for the race lead. Hunted now gets the move done, and Alex Barron is up into the race lead on track and regardless, still on penalties. Looks like Lennon challenging Beatnik. But no prevail there. J&T charging back at Groggers. No move made there because J&T backed out. JTK, this is going to be a tough one throughout the final races of the season. JTK ahead on Florian for P8. This is why I mentioned change in lead. Hold on for a second with that being said. Valkyrie 3 second. This is why I mention it. Because Red Bull lead this race. Red Bull behind with JTK. It wouldn't be too much of a change in lead unless Groggers is heavily penalized. But as of right now, it's changing the lead in terms of the gap, not in terms of a swap. But what is going to be in terms of a swap is Hunted, who's about to come to this final lap and win for the 3rd time this season. And if he does just that, he'll take the championship lead with it. And it must be said, the championship lead, the last couple of races, has swapped quite a bit. It was Grandpa in Singapore, Grandpa after Belgium, Hunted after Hungary, Grandpa after France, after Britain, after Austria. He just hasn't looked back, really, in some way, Grandpa, until recent races. Final lap underway, penultimate lap done, and now we're looking at Lennon mounting a last lap charge on Beatnik. Can Beatnik be forced into a mistake to get a penalty to get this Haas podium for the 7th different team this season? The answer so far is no, but Beatnik's going to need a hefty mistake in order for Lennon to take this podium. Very nice debut from Lennon, must be said. Not impressing too much like Alex Bear. Lennon has had a lot of trouble that he has capitalized on, but still ran a very nice race in regards to it nonetheless. Must be said. Head of the teammate as well of Owen. That also cannot go underappreciated as well. But behind that, J&T and JTK fed it out. This is important for Ferrari Academy. They have to take a spot here in order for them to hold on to a sizable gap. They have this spot right now with Groggers and JTK, but now the final sector we go to. Yellow flags, that's at the back of the grid, but not anything that's going to matter. He started the season out by winning for the first time since F1.5 and the F2 days. His only wins in RPL, came back, won in France, and then was on a winning streak. Won in the upcoming races, and now a 3rd win on the season. Lost the championship lead last week, but the championship lead is back for Hunted, who takes win in Qatar. Very nicely done. Alex Bear finishes P2. Beatnik P3 over Lennon. Not enough right there. J&T is spinning at the final corner. That's going to cost Alfa Romeo dearly. Groggers P5. JTK P6. Florian, then Tadpole. Owen comes across the line. P7 gets it on penalties, and J&T will be P10. Last points. P11. Nice last lap battle here. Mythic will get the place. It will be P11 because Lennon will get P4 reinstated after that glitch is sorted out. Valkyrie coming to the line. Leon Miner behind that. Looks to be out of fuel, but not going to matter anyway because he's not in the points. Finishes another RPL race, though, as long as you can just cross the line. PK's AI might beat Leon here. Is PK's AI going to beat Leon? No. Hunted won France, won the upcoming race of Hungary, and now 3rd win of the season. And most importantly, takes the championship lead back. Red Bull are trying to chase after that championship lead in the constructors, but it really becomes now, with Tadpole being the lone McLaren to score points, it really becomes realistically a two-car battle for this constructors, Ferrari versus Red Bull. The constructors last season wrapped up in Canada. Obviously, not going to happen as early this time, but Hunted can lift the trophy very happily indeed. That injury that we mentioned pre-race come into no effect with him. It was just a small injury on the thumb as well, so it was nothing too severe. We mentioned it like it's something too severe. It really wasn't, but it does. I will say, we speak of injury, right? It doesn't affect drivers too badly, but it just messes with your comfortability, and that's what you don't like. Tadpole likely will appeal the 10-second, likely going to put him P4. So P16 on the grid to P4. Didn't have the best of quality, so I'm not going to give him driver of the day, but I'm actually going to give the Haas of Lennon driver of the day. P5, excuse me, it will be because of the thingy with the glitch. The glitch. I couldn't think of it for a moment. So, yeah, it will be P4 for Lennon once that is reinstated. And I'm going to give Lennon driver of the day as well. I think Lennon deserves it due to this whole fact. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to say it's undeserving by the fact that the P4 was on a lot of people like Tadpole and Groggers and even Florian at one point, Grandpa at one point having trouble. It still would have been P8 for Haas at that point if you put him in behind those guys, which still is really good on debut. Alex Baer did the same in an Alfa Romeo, and we didn't give Alex Baer driver of the day for that. Was that a mistake? I don't know. But what I can say for sure is that a driver who comes in this league in one of the bottom field cars, such as an Alfa Romeo, a Haas, an AlphaTauri, a Williams, any team like that who performs well deserves the credit, and that's why I give Lennon driver of the day. Lennon didn't sit here and just run up there due to, you know, getting places like a race like Austria, or I don't know, you have to go back to Singapore or Hungary where there was races incident filled earlier in the season where drivers like that did take advantage because of that. It was simply 4 drivers had trouble. Yes, it was less drivers this week compared to previous weeks with Tier 2 action, but it was Lennon up there battling with Beatnik prior to the safety car, and Aston Martin, Aston being, what, 4th, 5th fastest car, you could say, 5th fastest car, actually, 5th fastest car, and battling up there with Beatnik for a good spot on the road. So it's not just like Lennon took advantage based on mistakes from other drivers. He took advantage based on other factors as well. Took advantage by being there as well, being at the right place, right time. I mean, he could have really had a podium if he just didn't get the 3-second penalty. He beat Beatnik on track. Had a nice little battle there between them two, but it just wasn't enough for a podium. Haas's last podium still remains round 9 last season. All right, well, there are 5 of you still tuning in. We've got Tier 2 next week at Mexico, where the championship can either be wrapped up or it could go to the final race at Brazil with a 3-car battle or a 2-car battle. Doesn't matter which one. JTK and Valkyrie were in a battle entering this race for P4. Florian as well, also part of that battle. Alex Baer as well, P8, just behind that action. Alex Baer could be best of the rest by the end of the season in P4, must be said. And the Constructors race as well that we've not mentioned, outside of the top 3, top 4. Back there, best of the rest. I wouldn't say Aston's best of the rest now. Aston are like a step ahead of the rest, but Alpine on back, P6. Haas will get P6 over them. Williams not far behind. Alfa Romeo, P9 entering this race. P10 for AlphaTauri entering this race. A lot of battles throughout the field, but Ferrari will remain in the Constructors' lead after this one is over. Penalties could change the amount of gap, but the amount of gap's going to decrease. And Hunted takes over the championship lead for Red Bull. Tune in next time at Mexico. Next week, same time as always, to figure out whether or not Haunted can remain in the championship lead. Can Grandpa challenge back? What does Groggers have to say about it? P3 in the championship. And for the sake of the constructors as well, Ferrari, Red Bull, they're the two main championship rivals in terms of teams. But can McLaren sneak their way back in there for a last-ditch effort for the title? They're P3 right now, but they are long shots. And later this weekend, F2 is tomorrow. That is at 11:15 a.m. Eastern, 4:15 p.m. UK time. I will not be commentating that, but I will be streaming my point of view as well as Titans. We will give a stream link for that one later on our Instagram. Repost it under our story. Since it's only driver point of views, but need the attendance for F2. And for F1, I will be streaming that. Titan Iron Wolf will be beside me. We are at Brazil for that one. Basically a preview for what your Tier 2 finale will be like. However, a champion is crowned this time in Tier 1. It is Reese Dainty, the champion. All right. Either you have chances to tune in the rest of this weekend or next week for Tier 2. But until next time, I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles, and we will see you next time here in RPL whenever you choose to tune in. Have a good evening, good night whenever you're watching, and we'll see you for the next time here in RPL.